This is how to finish the side seam of the pumpkin. Find your inside legs of the last row you just finished and find the original chain at the very beginning. Go through the first chain, pick up the leg closest to you of the last row that you just finished. It sounds complicated, but it really isn't. Into the next chain of the original row, pick up the closest leg of the last row. Make sure your yarn is not wrapped around the right side of your piece. And there you go, whip stitch. First row chain stitch, closest leg of the last row. Continue in this manner until you complete your entire side seam. And this is an aerial view of what you're doing. After you completed the side seam, you're going to pick around the top edge and pick up about every 2 or 3 stitches. I kind of follow the ribbing. You just want to have enough stitches picked up so that you can cinch the top of your pumpkin and keep the stuffing in. So I'm just picking up every 2 or 3 stitches. It's very inexact. And you continue to work all the way around. Until you get to the point where you first started, which of course is your side seam. A few more stitches here. And we will have gone all the way around the top of the pumpkin. And here we are at the beginning. That's your piece of yarn that was at the very beginning of your chain. That's your last stitch there. Cinch it tight. Put that original piece of yarn into the middle of your pumpkin. It's going to go in with the stuffing. It will be secured in the next step. And pull it tight. You kind of have like a little hat. Here's the inside of the pumpkin. There's that first piece of yarn when you were making your chain. Thread your long piece of working yarn into that hole at the bottom of your pumpkin. And this is how you're going to secure that little piece of thread from the very beginning of the chain. Just tie a knot. It's not going to fall apart or anything. It's just to keep it inside with the stuffing. You can trim this tail if you want. But as I said, it's going to be on the inside. It's going to be with stuffing. It's knotted, so it's not going to pop out. I just leave it as is. But you can cut it if you want. But make sure you don't cut your working thread. Okay, your working yarn back through that hole. And don't cut it yet. Now you have like a little bucket. And you can decide how much stuffing you want to put in. Here I'm using some scrap yarn and some polyfill to kind of be sustainable and recycle. After you've filled it to how big you want it to be, now put your working yarn through that bottom hole and kind of pull it up through the middle of your stuffing And this is where you can decide how tall you want your pumpkin to be, or squat. That's all determined by the stuffing. Now you're gonna cinch around the top like we did for the bottom. You can start wherever you want, just kind of remember where an eye on where you started. And go around again. Same as the bottom, except now you have a full stuffed pumpkin. And pick up every second or third stitch or so. Again, it's not really important to be super exact. You just want to make sure that it cinches up nicely, like that. You can play with the shape of the pumpkin a little later, after we put the stem in. So cinch it up, and we're going to secure this long piece of yarn with a knot. So go through a couple of the stitches on top. Take the tail, wrap it around your needle. I like to do it 2 or 3 times. And that was 1.5. Pull it tight. Do not cut your yarn yet. And there's your pumpkin, stuffed, stitched. And now we need to put in the stem. Put your stem in that hole. Wrap your finishing yarn around the stem, and you're going to put the needle into the loop twice. That's one time. That's the second time. Cinch that tight. Wrap the yarn around again. Go into the loop one time. You could go in twice if you want to, but one time should suffice. And then pick up a couple of stitches around the top of the pumpkin. And you're going to wrap that yarn 1.5, 2, 3 times around. Pull it through. Cinch it up nice and tight. You could put some glue on that stem if you want, but this holds it pretty well. And then you can stick the long working yarn back into your pumpkin. You can pull it out the bottom and then trim the end.